paid good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
This is the color of black, baby. It's a whole lot different than white.
Get it! Come on, nigga! Come on, nigga! Go! I'm a devil. He's a goddamn devil, man. What kind of giant is that? You let that devil sit all the goddamn lies on me. You let this devil and tell all them goddamn lies, man. Oh, go to hell. You fit them all up. What the hell lies? I'll do what you do. I take him out. That dirty motherfucker.
Hey, baby. 10 and 3?
Oh, man. Why you gotta put me through all this? You know the going rate is 20 and 3.
Okay, 20 and 3.
Welcome home, Brother Charles. You done the man's time. Now you're gonna do ours.
Hey, baby, what's happening? Hey, man, you telling me the white man let the biggest dope push in all of sunny side in California out on the streets again? Hey, baby, damn!
And I'll take it off.
Oh, baby, that's a deal.
Dirty, slimy bastard! That's why I meet a man the first chance I get.
Welcome home, Brother Charles. A motion picture about the way it is and the way some people think it should be.
That kind of hatred brings on mania.
Look, I didn't come here to be called a maniac, Doctor. Now, a man damn near cuts my manhood off. Now, what am I supposed to do? Nothing? Tell him to come downstairs.
Come down for a moment, dear, please.
What's the matter, honey?
Why don't you sit down on the floor? Face down. Come on.
But surely you don't take it seriously.
All right, hold. Hey, hold it! Goddamn thing.
Get back. I'll jump. Hold it.
Welcome home, Brother Charles. They tried to take everything, even his manhood.
Welcome to the Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. Joining me once again is Jackie Stewart.
Hey, great to be back, Mike.
Also back in the booth is Mr. Gary Phillips.
Thanks for having me back.
We conclude Black History Month with a look at Jamaa-Fanaka's Welcome Home, Brother Charles. Released in 1975, it's the story of our titular Brother Charles, played by Marlo Monte. He's picked up by the police and possibly castrated, maybe, for being too uppity. Amid the crime and corruption of mid-70s Los Angeles, we follow Charles as he's railroaded into jail and swears vengeance upon his release. We will be spoiling this film as we go along, so if you haven't seen Welcome Home, Brother Charles, please turn off this podcast and go watch it. We will still be here. So, Gary, when was the first time you saw this movie, and what did you think, sir?
The first time I saw it, it's when you sent it to me.
Wow, really? Oh, boy, I can't wait to hear your reaction.
I had seen some of other Mr. Fanaka's films. Of course, the penitentiary cycle, I guess everybody knows of him through that. But yeah, man, this was, 'cause as I said, I was actually surprised. Not only was I surprised of the film itself, and that I know somebody in the film, Sam Ingraffia. I actually know two people. Well, one of them I know slightly, but I know two of the camera operators. At the end of the credits, you see Charles Burnett's name, and you see Ben Caldwell. And Ben Caldwell, both of course are still around making films, but Ben in particular, I know he runs a lovely community organization here in LA called Chaos Network, and they do a lot of work around filmmaking and pop culture and accessibility, etc. Anyway, all that to say is that yes, so it was quite a treat having some knowledge of what the film was about. I mean, that I had some knowledge of from some years ago, but still being able to see the film in all its glory was pretty good.
Hey, Jackie, how about you?
It was one that was sort of a legend for years. It's the unfortunate downside is that the reputation of the movie precedes itself, and the big surprise is sort of what everyone knows beforehand. So I'd known for years what I was going to get out of the movie, but I figured the best possible way to, give myself that introduction is to prepare for a show like this. So I only recently watched it, knowing all too well the basis of what to expect, and I figured getting a way to discuss it with you guys would probably be the most interesting way to go about it. And it is similarly, I was familiar with Jamaa-Fanakaa particularly because I've seen the first two penitentiary films. I still need to see the third one because those were back in the early days of Netflix streaming when they would show interesting stuff that nobody else would carry at the time, or they could, because they were still fighting with all the big distributors. So I saw the penitentiary movies on there and a whole bunch of weird stuff, and I mean those felt like a wild time when streaming was interesting instead of just the only option that we had left. So I knew the name. I knew that he made some very, interesting, very singularly voiced stuff, and seeing a student film of his knowing where it's going to go, I could not pass up the opportunity to talk about it with you guys.
Yeah, this was actually first time watch for me as well. I, again, knew the reputation, the kind of notorious reputation of this film. And I was honestly really pleasantly surprised by just how well put together this movie is, because I was afraid, oh, geez, this is, it's a student film that was shot on weekends and things. And, maybe Fanaka was too ambitious for what he wanted to do, but I don't think so. I think he really pulled this together. And I really think that Marlo Monte does a great job. I mean, so many of these lower budget films just live and die by the performances. And yeah, there's a couple clunky lines, but I think that's more the writing than the performance, because I think the performances are pretty solid, especially Marlo Monte, and this whole movie is on his shoulders. I was very happy with what they did with it. Now I'm a little confused by a couple of things here and there, like reading reviews and it's like, oh, well, this happened, then this happened. I'm like, I didn't get that. There are a couple things along the way where I'm going to be like, is that what you guys got? Because I didn't necessarily get this, but so it's kind of held together by hopes and dreams sometimes. but overall, it's pretty cool. And especially that we start with, our main character on this ledge and this cop talking to him just hey, I'm here to help you, da 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 da. They bring this woman along on top of this roof, and it's like, oh, well, here's your girlfriend and she's going to help us out. And then we go to a flashback, or we flash back to the whole beginning of the story. And so this whole movie is basically a flashback leading to that moment back on the roof, which I always appreciate that, especially okay, well, how did this happen? And it was really nice when you suddenly realize, oh, we're about to meet up with the beginning of the movie. And you never know how long the flashback or how long the present is going to last after that. It could be a J.J. Abrams thing where it's always like, like 2/3 of the way through, that third act is in the present, but the rest was in a flashback. But this one, it's like, I'd say 95%, 98% is flashback, and the other 2% is just this wrapper on either end, and it's very effective the way that he does that.
Yeah, where the beginning of the movie is the end of the movie. You just get everything right in the middle of it. And
we get to meet all of these characters. There's Charles, there's Twyla. I mean, I was a little confused at times, and I'm not saying this, I'm going to say this is going to sound super racist, but allow me to finish. I was very confused by who was who in this movie. A lot of times people looked alike to me, but that was both the black people and the white people. Because there were a couple times where I was like, how many cops are there? Is that guy with the beard, like the guy with the beard is the same as this guy, but he didn't have enough hair. And so so there were a couple times where I was like, okay, now is Charles a pimp or it's this other guy who's the pimp.
Right. Charles is the drug dealer. Although,
yeah, Charles is the drug dealer. That's right.
Well, he's somewhat low level. He's not really, how is it that Charles and the wife of the cop get together? But all right. Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. We'll go with that. We'll roll with that.
It was a case where I feel like a second viewing was almost necessary because it helped piece together, not really plot convenience necessarily, but just where everyone kind of, that's the judge. He's doing what now? All right.
Right. That's the guy we saw in the beginning, right? That's right.
Yeah, because the first time, I'd completely forgotten about that guy by the time it got to the courtroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the prosecuting attorney, I was glad that they gave us a flashback to the prosecuting attorney because I was like, oh, okay, because I wasn't really sure. Yeah, and same thing with the judge. I was glad they're like, oh, see, he was this guy. And I'm like, oh, all right, I got it now. There's the pimp, who's another guy. There's Charles, who's the low-level drug dealer.
But isn't the pimp his buddy?
Yeah, well, the pimp is his buddy, but it's not Peanuts, though, right? Because there's that guy who's, like, really gregarious and his friend, but then there's the pimp has, like, the sunglasses, I think.
Well, I guess so, because when Charles gets out of jail, is it Peanuts who shines him on, sort of? It's not Peanuts, it's the other guy.
No. He goes to Peanuts' house, and Peanuts is really super nice to him and tells him about, like, where Twyla's working at, and she's over at this bottomless club, I guess it was. I was like, okay, that's a way to put it. Yeah, the other guy, I'm trying to remember his name.
It's not JD.
Indy is what it is.
That's it. There you go, Indy. That's right.
Yeah, I just straight up didn't even bother getting names the whole movie. I just remembered faces and went along with that.
Right, that's it. Well, I had to look on IMDb to get some of the names so I could be clear about, who was who.
Well, yeah, when he said Peanuts, his name, I was just like, did he just call him Peanut, or what am I hearing here? Because there's Twyla, but then there's the other lady. So, like, Twyla's the one who's a stripper and used to be a prostitute, but then there's the other lady who ends up being, like, Charles's girlfriend, and I don't think she's a stripper. I don't think she's a former prostitute. She seems like she's got her life a little bit more together.
I've been thinking about this movie in a lot of ways, right? So as we know, as we've all hinted around the big, the reveal, as it were, toward the end, the anaconda of death. Was it because it started as this was his thesis film? Was this his thesis film?
I think it was, yeah.
And I guess maybe that was part of the constraints, so you couldn't really go full porn, right? Softcore porn, presumably, right? But it is interesting that it walks this really strange, interesting line. In fact, I had a brief discussion with, I mentioned Ben Caldwell as one of the camera operators, and so Ben's recollection is that it was he and Jamaa were talking about, the perceptions of black men, and of course, it's what the film gets into, a la Sweet Sweetback, and that's how then we get to this film, Welcome Home, Brother Charles, which is interesting in that. Some of the film, like Charles, when he gets out, he seems so. It's interesting to me that in some cases he seems very. He's not bitter, right? Seemingly he's not bitter. I mean, he is bitter, but that seems to sort of come on at a kind of at a stage, right? Because initially he doesn't seem to me. He seems to almost not have any drive when he gets out of prison. It's not like he's looking for revenge, or it's not like he's immediately looking for revenge. It seems that the idea of revenge kind of comes to him at a stage.
To your point, when he gets out, he visits Peanut, he just has he kind of catches up with some people, and then next thing you know, I think is it him that's shooting heroin? Because we get this shot of like needle going into a vein.
I don't think it was him. Was it him?
Was it?
Yeah, I just took that as just random people on the street.
Right, right.
They cut through so many people. That was honestly, like all the visuals that stand out in this movie. That was the one that caught me off guard. I was like, they just played it like it was your regular, cool street montage, but it started with just needle straight in the arm. It's fine. Blood on the street.
And Charles is looking, initially he's looking for a square gig, right? He's not, right? He's just trying to, make a living and not go back to that the life that he lived before. And there's a bit of, you do see a bit of a kind of a, I believe it's a kind of a montage of his transformation in prison. Not like Malcolm X, but still he is transformed to some extent.
Oh, and I love that whole montage of the still images and then the desaturated, how they're like, it's not black and white, it's more like blue and white. And then some of the images I think are actual like film, like moving, and then others are just stills. And I thought that was really well done.
What if in 2023 you try to remake this movie, right? You try, you know what I mean? Whether you said it now or said it then, I guess there's really no way you could do it, right? There's no way you could do it as a, well, maybe there's a way to do it. I don't know. I don't know if you can do it. I don't know if you can't do it. It's interesting to me to think about it because then I started, going down that rabbit hole. And it was funny too, because I was thinking about the sequels. And so I looked up the cop, right? So he's stripping Freeman's wife, who's Christina. I looked up her name in the cast. She's played by a young lady named Tiffany something. But anyway, but remember there's a sequence where it was, and I think it happens after the fact, after the attempted castration, where isn't he dealing with this? And somehow or another, they're both, him and his buddy are both ICE cops, and yet somehow they're dealing with a bomb at LAX, right? And he's running with the briefcase, and maybe he's getting irradiated, or maybe he's not getting irradiated. I'm not quite sure. But that happens after he attacks Charles, right?
Yes, it does. And that's being cross-cut with Charles fucking that guy's wife.
Yes. Okay. So that's right. Well, this guy's risking his life. Charles is banging his wife. That's right. There you go. Okay. There we go. He's banging the missus. That's right.
Cross-cut with the beautiful footage of the airplane taking off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I kept waiting for the bomb to go off to be the orgasm.
So that does happen, right? That's right. So that does happen before he tries to castrate.
The castration scene is earlier than that.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
I just rewatched it, and I was confused about the order of events there. That first 20 minutes or so, the first time around, it's hard to get a real grasp of exactly what's happening if you're not paying. Like, if you look away for a second and you look back, it's like a whole different scene is going on every time.
And so I say all that to say, in the remake or in the underground graphic novel version, I would want the radiation bomb scene to happen before, only because now you see and now I'm, by the way, I'm also linking this to how Luke Cage in the comics in 72, gets his powers through an experiment in prison, right? And so apparently brother Charles gets his power because his member is reattached in prison, or at least in jail. Anyway, all that to say is that if Freeman were to deal with the radiation bomb earlier and to use his knife, like let's say, just for the sake of this argument, and to help somehow make the bomb inoperable, and he's got to cut wires with a knife or whatever it is. So on the Marvel Comics version, that knife would become the irradiated object, right? So then when he tries to cut Charles, it's the radiation you see that gives him the special powers. So I was just thinking about that in terms of I would want to clean that sequence up just so we're clear how he got that power. And then of course I would assume, because we do start with the African statue imagery in the title sequence,
with that great theme that they play.
Yeah, so somehow that I think you got to wrap that in there too. Maybe the doctor who works on them, maybe the statue is there in the operating room, or at least in the doc's office or something. So we kind of tie that imagery and that symbolism together.
Yeah, the order of events is strange. Even the idea of, is he castrated, is he not castrated? Because I think later on in the movie they say he was castrated, and I was like, I didn't really get that from that scene.
Yeah, I just thought the guy took a knife to it. I didn't think about removal.
Exactly. Yeah, because I think even then his partner says something like you were about to do it or you almost did it, and I thought there was some qualifier as opposed to yes, he really did it.
When the husband Freeman he confronts his wife, that's when the dialogue for me gets really kind of overwrought.
Might be a little gory for you, though.
What, another vicious rape case?
No. Much worse than that.
Oh, nothing's worse than rape.
It's about this guy. He's married. Married a few years. 2 kids. Nice house, couple of cars. You know, all the things that make up a nice, happy home life. The little wifey, she's dissatisfied. Did she come to hubby about her dissatisfaction? She goes out and sharks up behind his back. You want to know what tore him apart? Well, the guy she was shacking up with turned out to be a dirty, stinking, no good, dope pushing nigger!
Dirty, slimy bastard! You didn't have enough manhood to face me straight off. No, you had to go through some goddamn silly pantomime because you're not enough of a man. That's why I meet a man the first chance I get. Because no matter how many Mickey Mouse bombs you disarm, it isn't gonna make you any more of a man than that shriveled up thing down there declares you.
But just like the way that she's denigrating him and his, what'd she call it, like that shriveled up thing between your legs kind of thing. I was just like, oh, this is a little clunky here.
Yeah. And they stay together. And that's the other thing. It's not like they get a divorce. I mean, she's still there when he gets out of jail, for God's sakes.
And then they have this like kangaroo trial of just putting him on. And that's where we see the judge. And we saw the judge earlier trying to pick up one of the prostitutes. I think it might have been Twyla. And then we've got the prosecuting attorney who's a real blowhard. And yeah, they shoot him right into jail. And when we get into jail, that's when that theme comes back. We've got that desaturated footage, the kind of le jeté use of the still images, which was really cool. And then he gets out. And like you said, he tries to make that good life for himself. And yeah, it really does feel like he's getting so frustrated because his girlfriend is able to hold a steady job and he's unable to do anything. And then it was kind of funny because when he starts his plan of vengeance, he starts to take on different menial roles like, oh, I'm the telephone repairman, or I'm the guy with the water bottle and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, that's right. But I thought, that's straight out of 70s porn, right? The pizza delivery man, the repair man comes by and then he winds up, hanging the housewife. So yeah, there you go.
Well, I appreciated that too, because like later on in the movie when, he's sneaks out on his girlfriend to go on his path to revenge, and he tells her he was just out looking for jobs. And so every time he's doing that, he's just playing work to get something done.
I didn't look at the time code to see how far along it takes, but really it's when he shows up at, I think it's Freeman's wife that he goes to first as the telephone repairman, and he comes in and it almost feels like she doesn't recognize him at first. And he basically like takes down his pants, and next thing you know, boom, she's got this vacant look on her face, and she is just completely, literally hypnotized by his cock.
Exactly.
And he just starts to give her all these instructions, and she is helpless. She's completely helpless because of looking at this man's cock. And it's amazing.
Does Johnson have a big eye on it? Is that what it is? You know what I mean? In the remake, come on, man, you got to, it moves like a cobra.
Yeah, maybe it's swinging like a pendulum.
Exactly. To be fair, now that also means you got to use it on men too, right? You can't just use it on women. We got to be play fair. You got to, what I mean? It's all good.
I picture it like going up to her ear and whispering in her ear like a little puppet.
That's it. That's right. Oh my God. Oh yes.
it's her and Freeman in bed together. She just wakes up, goes downstairs,
and lets him in. And lets him in.
Yeah,
that's right.
Lets him in. And then we just get the screams of Freeman and that look on Charles's face, and then like cross-cutting to the wife, who just again is completely deadpan, but just, we don't know. Like, the first time I watched it, of course, I did know what was going on, but I was just like, as an audience member, the first time seeing this, you would have no idea what the hell's going on right now.
That's right. Exactly. It did play some theaters, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, so that you got to think, well, what? I mean, you got to hand it to Fanakaa, man. It's like, well, how did he sell this movie to these distributors? I mean, or at least even if he's just doing it himself, like forewalling it, right? With the, like, oh my God, I think I would, talk about the midnight show, man. I mean, yeah.
I mean, yeah, to be a fly on the wall of that, like, first unsuspecting audience.
So, holy moly, what are we watching here?
Like, even knowing what to expect, the whole time you're going, they're not really going to do that, right?
And I like it. And by the way, Mike, I love the article you sent us where I guess at least one of the ads has it's a jawbreaker. Big Charlie's back in town to get his piece of action. Holy moly, man! Is it? Oh yeah, well, I guess that describes the film to a T. That's all.
Can't argue with a word of it.
Right, can't argue with a word of that. Nope, that's some truth in advertising there, boy. I tell you.
I almost wish that there were more people for him to get his revenge on, because
exactly.
Because he's already defeated by the second guy. He ends up getting to that prosecuting attorney.
Oh, no. Listen, man, we got to have a scene of him swinging, by that bad boy, escaping over the rooftops like Daredevil. You know what I'm saying? It's got listen, man, the remake would be so wrong on so many levels, but it would be just so much fun.
Be like a fucking pogo stick.
Exactly. A lariat. All kinds of things you can do with that bad boy. Come on.
And it's one of the weirdest ways to go, too, just because it takes a long time for him to get fully erect, longer than John Holmes. And the prosecuting attorney is just like,
He's terrible. I mean, he's just backing into the wall because, I mean, what is the small white man more afraid of than the black man's big dick?
Jesus Christ!
All he could do was try to back up.
Exactly,
he couldn't take his eyes off it.
Oh my Lord!
And also maybe a bit on the nose, but I couldn't help but notice it. Like, it couldn't have been unintentional that the officer that pulled all this shit was named Officer Freeman.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So he manages to kill that guy, and then when he goes after the judge, that's when the quote unquote good cop, like the one who left the scene when his partner was trying to castrate Charles. And I like how he was like, hey, what the hell, Pontius Pilate? You're going to wash your hands and walk away?
The good cop who dared to say, hey, are you sure about that?
Right.
And let him do it.
Exactly. That's right. You said, thanks, pal. Thanks for helping me out.
Just a couple bad apples, right?
That's right. Just a couple bad apples. That's right. Yeah. That's it, man. I tell you.
Oh man. But man. Yeah, he is the one that goes to his psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist is talking about Charles totally breaking patient therapist confidentiality.
That's right.
And then he tells him about this dream that Charles had where he was able to do this with his Johnson, and so then the light goes off over the guy's head. He's just like, all right, gotta go save the judge.
Of all things, I did appreciate with the psychiatrist, though, hearing something that I feel like I still hear constantly today. When he tells the officer, like, hey, my services are open, all the time. And the cop's like, well, I don't need any of that yet. And he's like, that's where you're wrong. Pretty much everybody does, and they don't even know it. I was like, well, that's a surprisingly open-minded thing that even now people are having trouble wrapping their heads around.
I tell you, man, this really, I guess I can't get out of the notion, the idea that, man, to try to remake this film, I just think, oh man, it was just.
I thought about it too, because I realized that, like, I was thinking, is there any way you could retell this story? And is there any other movie where you could get away with just that one, the twist in the one scene? And then just, because like most of this movie stands pretty well on its own as just kind of a pretty serious drama about a guy getting his life back, and maybe going on a little revenge on the side. And that one scene comes out of nowhere, and then the movie just continues. And I was thinking, like, how many movies? There is no other movie in history where you could just throw that. Like, you can't just go through like 2/3 of a Death Wish movie and then have Bronson grow a giant dick and kill somebody with it, and then finish the Death Wish movie.
Finish it. That's right. But and we just got to keep going. That's right. It was just another instrument in his toolbox, as it were. That's right. That's that. Exactly. Oh, but maybe that. Listen, Jackie, that might be it. That you're right. That Charles. You're right. So to Mike's point, you have obviously you want more people for him to go through, as it were, to exact his revenge. And if he does different methods of death, and then, like you said, like toward the end of the movie, all of a sudden, like there's a giant anaconda thing strangling the guy. And you go, what? Wait, where'd that come from?
Oh, and I love the way they film it, like the between the legs, and you see it descend down. And you're just
exactly.
Is that what I think
That's
it
what
is?
I think it is. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, right? That's right.
And they don't even say anything about it. Like at the end, it's like, the guy's like, hey, I know you've got these physical problems, but don't worry, we'll find a cure or something. It's like trying to talk the Hulk down, don't worry, David, we'll fix it.
Puny Banner. Hulk is always Puny Banner. I don't want to be Puny Banner. I want to be the Hulk. Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, and so our quote unquote hero cop shows up, and that's when we rejoin the movie and we go back up to the roof. And when they bring out Charles's girlfriend, you're expecting her to be like, Charles, it's okay, we'll work this out.
Yeah.
They want you to be safe, yada yada. And instead, just her going, jump. And I'm like, holy shit. And then fucking freeze frame on her, and then pull up this title card of let them indulge their pride in thinking I am destroyed. It is a comfort to them. Let it be. And I'm like, holy shit, man.
Making the way for the sequel, man. I'm telling you, he used that bad boy to swing down off that rope. We wrapped that bad boy around that bar, bar.
Yeah, right.
Good for repelling,
Exactly.
Repel,
down, man.
Just do a lasso around the flagpole.
Exactly.
Did either of you watch the original trailer for it? Because it shows the whole damn movie.
It's
literally
like
shows
4.5 minutes.
Yeah, it's like 4.5 minutes, and it literally ends with her yelling to jump. Like, that's the whole movie right there, except for, the scene. I was just shocked.
When I open up this episode, it's going to be the radio trailer that I use, which is much more effective, I think. And it's like a minute, maybe minute and a half, and just gets right to it. Because, they even did this on Trailers from Hell. And the guy's just like, it's not that good of a movie, but let's just skip to the end where it's the big cock. And it's like, there is a little bit more to this movie.
I feel like that says a lot about society for you, though.
That's right. That's it. So these parallels, right? So of course I was thinking about, Luke Cage and how, Luke Cage gets his power also from, I guess we're not quite clear how Brother Charles gets his power exactly, but like I said, I'm on the irradiated tip. So of course, Cage gets his power from actually it's a racist guard. Cage volunteers for this experiment in prison, but the racist guard knocks the scientists out and ups the amperage, as it were, to try to kill Cage, because he and his guard are going at it. And then of course, it's upping the amperage that gives Cage his steel hard skin and super strength. But I was thinking, so there's another interesting character, not from comics, but there was a series of books, paperback originals in the early 70s, so a few years before this movie. It's like 71 and 72. There was like 6 books about a character called, I have a couple of them sitting somewhere, or maybe I have them in storage with my so-called collection. There was a character called Richard Abraham Spade, a.k.a. Super Spade. He was a black character written by a black writer. Super Spade was I guess a bit more intellectual than Shaft, but kind of in the Shaft mode. But he had a superpower, not necessarily this monster Johnson, but he could release some kind of hyperpheromone, so it would make women go weak in the knees for him. So when he wanted to, right, when he needed to, right, during his investigations, he would release this thing, release this power over the women. So I was thinking about that. So I was thinking about it in the context of Brother Charles. So again, in the remake, maybe he would control that kind of pheromone, or maybe a giant dick would talk and would release it. I don't know. But anyway, all that stuff was sort of in my head when I keep thinking about the movie.
I mean, that's what they used to tell us that they had to embrace the power of jazz music to do back in the day.
It's funny to me because so much of this stuff is still with us. I mean, and I think that historically this whole thing of black guys have huge cocks and they just like basically hypnotize the women, they're going to steal all the white women away and all this kind of thing. I mean, I don't know how long that's been going on, but I want to say at least 150 years here in the United States.
Give or take. Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, something like that, if not more. And then you got, like now you go out to like Pornhub or X Hamster and you're just like BBC all over the fucking place. And just like the way that the right wing had adopted the whole like calling somebody a cuck for a long time. And it's just like, well, you're not just talking about cuckolding somebody. You're talking about cuckolding somebody with a black guy and like just making the black man just a piece of meat.
Exactly.
It's so denigrating.
Exactly.
And so it's like super racist, all types of things.
Really strange and weird and twisted, right, sexual weird way. Like apparently, and he's never going to listen to this, but I guess he's admitted this, right? Roger Stone, the big, GOP hack guy, apparently has, paid black men to service his wife, and he watches. And I mean, so you're right. And he's the guy that's got the big tattoo of Nixon on his back, right? So it's like, man, how do you compartment? How do you make sense of any of this, man? It's such a weird and twisted kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, it's pretty hard being a racist piece of shit. So, if anybody's got it tough, it's them.
Yeah, you got to do so many mental gymnastics to make it all make sense.
Yeah. Speaking of Nixon, did anybody notice the scene where was it Twyla that was dancing in the two piece, and there was a poster behind her, and it looked like Richard Nixon but with a devil face, sitting on a toilet, and I really, really want to get a better look at what that poster was.
Oh, that's great, Jay.
Incredible.
That's great, though. Of course, I'm sure that must be. Yeah, that's perfect. Of course.
Yeah, that's some of the best set decoration I've ever seen in my life.
Right on. Oh, now you just reminded me. Just to back up for another second, Nixon brought me back to Top of the Heap. This brings me back to Super Spade, who I just mentioned, which was written by Joe Green under the B.B. Johnson was the pseudonym. But Joe Green had an interesting career. Apparently, he was like a musician and wrote very
B.B. Johnson, Big Black Johnson.
That was the pseudonym that he used, sir. I just passed those things along. It's not me.
Okay, all right. Sorry, you just like said it so nonchalant.
How could I not? But Joe Green apparently, because I was reading about on my friend Kevin Smith's Thrilling Detective site, which is where I went back to look up about Super Spade. So Joe Green apparently did some uncredited writing on Top of the Heap. How about that for a small world after all? So there you go.
I really liked the sequence that we were talking about earlier that starts with that kind of disconcerting heroin abuse, but then goes into almost like documentary footage of just people on the streets, and get to see Charles in front of the Watts Towers. But then you just like kind of go around. It's like, this guy dancing, these people just drinking on the street, just kind of like, like little kids, just kind of like slice of life stuff. And I was like, that's really cool. And like, it was a good way to, lengthen the movie out a little bit, but also it was just like such a nice time capsple of like, here's LA in 74-ish. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. As soon as that guy started dancing to the camera, I was like, oh, this isn't, they don't know they're in a movie, do they? I think he just turned the camera on some people and got some good footage out of it.
The scope of this, I think, you mentioned that this was kind of like his thesis film, and I think it was supposed to be a lot shorter, but Fanaka's just like, no, I'm going to do a feature. I've already done a short. I want to do a feature now. And it was just like so ambitious. And I think that was his whole thing, was just like pushing, and always trying to like do better with his next one. And so, he would just kept improving his craft every single film. And because this is no slouch, man. I would not be disappointed.
And it's funny, right? Did any of these folks ever go on? Well, Sam does, yeah. But do we know that others in the movie? I guess Monte never did nothing else, right? Is that true?
I don't think he did.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything, and I thought, he's really what holds that movie together. Like,
no, I thought there was time when he really has, this verb, and I thought, oh well, yeah, this cat, it's got something going on,
Yeah, like he had a great voice, a great delivery, like he was a natural with everything. When he flipped that switch, where there are those moments, where like the women are in trance, but he's kind of in a trance too, and he's just staring at the camera, and he gets all sweaty, and like this dude had it, but we only got to see it one time. It's a damn shame.
The woman that played Carmen, his girlfriend, she went on to do Retha Gray, I think her name is. She was in at least 75 things, including an episode of The Upshaws that just came out.
I'll be there. Well, right on. Excellent. Right on. There we go.
So yeah, she's still working, but
there
it's one of those where it's like.
And as I said, Sam is still working too. So there you go. At least two of them got out of the grip. Got out of the yeah. That's it.
Yeah, and one of I think it was the cop. Jim Cunningham. I think it was the quote unquote good cop. He went on to do a bunch of stuff as well. Only like 23 things, but I'll be talking about him again later this year, I think, when we're covering Walking the Edge, which I think just also came out on nice Blu-ray as well. But yeah, it's one of those where it's like, okay, who went on to other things and who didn't? And it's like 90% of the cast didn't. And they're probably a lot of like people that Fanaka knew, maybe people in theater. I mean, the guy that plays Peanuts, Charles D. Brooks III, I thought he was terrific, and I kind of was like, oh, I want to hang out with this guy. He seems so nice.
Oh, and, you mentioned in this word association, you mentioned Walking the Edge, made me think of something else I briefly thought of during this, which, like, for the most part is not similar, but I thought of Walking Tall, and how the difference there is when a white man pisses off a bunch of white people, they just cut up his chest a bunch.
That's it. That's right.
When a black man does it, they take it a lot more personal.
Exactly. That's right. That's a good point. Very good. That's right.
And there's no way Brother Charles was going to get to take over the police department.
Though I wish he would.
Oh man, what a yeah. Instead, I mean, they both walk tall and carry a big stick.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back with an interview with actor Sam Ingraffia right after these brief messages.
Hi, I'm Jason.
And I'm Jules.
And we doing filmographies. We've compiled a list of actors. We draw a name at random and tackle their entire acting filmography from start to finish, or at least as much of it that still exists and hasn't been lost to time.
Jason loves actor Billy Crudup in films like Jesus' Son or Almost Famous. But will he love Billy in movies like Monument Avenue or World Traveler?
No, they're not good. And Jules loves actor Radha Mitchell in films like High Art and Pitch Black. But will he love Radha in movies like When Strangers Appear or Love and Other Catastrophes?
You'll just have to tune in to find out.
Some of the names that pop up might surprise you.
Some of the films as well.
So join us every Saturday on the podcast app of your choice or via YouTube as
We Doin' Filmographies.
Tell me a little bit more about you and how did you decide to get into acting?
Basically, it kind of all starts with basically what we're going to talk about, the film we're going to talk about today. I was a political science major at UCLA and was a very serious student. And then a friend of mine said that it was very easy to meet young ladies if you got into an acting class. And so when I went to UCLA, you didn't have to be a theater major or a film major in order to take acting classes. You just had to get permission of the instructor. So started taking acting classes and had a whole lot of fun and met a lot of people and didn't really seriously think about being a professional actor. I was going to either, when I graduated, I was either going to go to law school or business graduate school. And I ended up going to business graduate school. While I was at business graduate school, somebody that I had met at UCLA in one of the acting classes called me, and he was directing a play in Los Angeles, where I live. And he said, I'm having difficulty casting this very small part. Would you be willing to cover it until I get a real actor to kind of come in and do it? And I was on a break from school, and I said, sure. Okay, it'd be fun. So I came in, I did the the part. I auditioned, read for him, and he said, "Fine, you're not so awful. You could do it." And I started working on the play, and I think it had like a three or 4 week run, and it was literally in a garage in front of 7 people. And when that ended, and I went back to graduate school, I was so depressed because I had been so excited being in that silly play for 7 people, and I think I wasn't even getting paid for it. And I was more excited about that than I was about taking finals at business graduate school. And so I said, maybe I should take a look at my career choice here that I have made. And I went and talked to the dean, and he was so nice. He basically said, you're doing fine and you're getting good grades, and you can come back if you want to take a leave. But it seems like possibly you want to be an actor and not an accountant. That was almost 50 years ago, and here I am. And I have serious doubts about it at times when auditions go badly or people don't treat me nicely. I think, I could have been an accountant, and I needed a fallback plan. Maybe I could go back to graduate school.
So what were those early roles like for you? Were you then doing more plays? Did you do commercials? Like, what were those early roles?
Oh, well, I did a ton of theater in Los Angeles. I probably done 50 or 60 plays in LA, and I did summer stock and regional theater and off Broadway. When I was starting as an actor, it was very cool to be a very angular Italian guy. Because of the success of The Godfather, the kind of bad guy of the day were mafia guys. So there's a lot of roles on television for Italian bad guys, and I think I played a lot of them. Basically, I single-handedly, forwarded the stereotype of the Italian mafia guy. I played a lot. I played drug dealers and gun runners and mafia hitmen, and that was kind of what I did for a number of years. And I got kind of pigeonholed doing that, and that was kind of how I segued into being a writer, because nobody would really consider me for anything except bad guys, because that was basically all I had on my reel. And so my plan was I was going to write something for myself to show my amazing versatility as an actor. I started kind of, again, backed into it like I backed into acting. With another actor friend of mine, we created 2 characters, and we started going to open mic comedy clubs and showcases to try and show people that first we could do comedy, and second of all, that we could write for ourselves. And we did that for about 6 months, and it was very discouraging because we didn't get anything at all, and we didn't get hired, and we didn't get any writing jobs. But we continued to do it, and it was almost like performance art. We created these 2 characters. We showed up in costume as the characters, signed in as the characters, and we didn't really have an act. Our characters were 2 guys from New Jersey who wanted to be in show business but had no talent. So we literally read joke books on stage. We insulted the audience. We did a mind reading gig, and it was like awful. And we would end up yelling at each other on stage, and nobody quite knew what to do with us. And a producer happened to be in the audience one night. He was from Universal. And he thought we were these characters. We were Sal and Junior. And he came up afterwards and he said, "I'd like to take you guys out for a drink." And we said, "Oh, sure." And we went out for a drink with him, and he was like shocked because we were Sal and Junior. And the next day he took us to Universal, and we got a pilot development deal. We weren't going to write the pilot. Writers were going to write the pilot for us. And they wrote a draft, and it wasn't particularly funny. And the development people at Universal said, "Well, why don't you guys give them some notes to kind of punch it up?" Well, we gave them pages and pages and pages of notes, which they used a lot of it in the pilot. And they said to us, "You could join the Writers Guild now because there's enough of your stuff in the pilot." And we had no idea what that even meant. We're like, "Oh, yeah, we should join the Writers Guild because then we'll be writers." And so we joined the Writers Guild, forked out all this money, joined the Writers Guild, and had absolutely no clue what we were doing. That pilot didn't sell. They came up with another draft of the pilot. that didn't sell. Then we wrote a pilot based on the characters, and that didn't sell. But Universal liked us so much that they gave us a development deal and said, come up with funny stuff. And if it sells, you'll be the writer producer on it. So for almost a year, we had an office at Universal, and we tried to come up with funny ideas that we would pitch to the people in the Black Tower, and most of them got rejected, and some of them we got paid to write a script, and some of them we didn't, never went anywhere. But that was kind of how we started, and we wrote together. My partner Gary Stein and I wrote together for 12 years, and we made a pretty decent living. And if you look at on my credits, my acting credits on IMDb, there's a big break for about 10 years where I don't have any acting credits. And I actually had somebody who was interviewing me say, I don't want to embarrass you, but did you have a drug problem or did you go to jail? What happened to you for 10 years? I'm like, well, sorry to disappoint you, but I didn't go to jail, but I was working as a writer. And then the two of us went our separate ways. And then I kind of started to focus back on acting again. And then I'd always wanted to be a film actor and write screenplays. That was always my dream. And so at that point, I said to my wife, I've made a fair amount of money writing television and a fair amount of money as an actor. I think I'm going to try something really dumb now, and I'm going to try and be a screenwriter. So I formed a production company with another partner, and we started making independent films and internet series and short films. And I've been doing that. And then acting again, my focus has been on acting. And now, because I have white hair, now I can play doctors and lawyers and CEOs and things like that. And what I never did when I first started as an actor, a friend of mine made a lot of money doing commercials, and she set up an interview for me with a commercial agent, a really good commercial agent. And I went in for the meeting, and I literally sat down, and he said, well, nice to meet you. And, what are your goals? And I said, well, I'd like to do commercials. That's not my primary focus, but I would really like to do it. And he said, well, with a face like yours, you're not going to sell a lot of dog food. And I had no idea what that, and this was in the early 80s. And what he was saying to me is that unless you had blue eyes and looked, like the Arrow shirt guy, where we were very kind of waspy looking, there wasn't a lot of stuff in commercials for that. And now that has all completely changed, which is lovely for me because I'm now making more money doing commercials than anything else. They're like money-making machines. People have figured out that I'm sort of funny. And so now I play kind of funny bad guys, or the grandpa who's a little nuts, and it's been great. I think I've done like a dozen commercials in the last 4 or 5 years. And COVID obviously put a big dent in that. Now things are, again, picking up again. So that's kind of my life story. I'm kind of backed into acting, backed into writing, and have done okay.
Are you making more money in commercials than you are from your 2 books? I mean, are you just raking in royalties?
I'm making so much money from my books that I don't even know how to spend it fast enough. No, I mean, the second one is actually doing pretty well. The first one was hard because you have no name recognition and, you're just somebody among the other millions of books. But when you have a second book, then you have a little bit of credibility. And so it's actually, and I learned a lot from the first book about how to market and promote and do all that stuff. So now I'm working on the third book, because once you have 3 with the same central character, then basically you have a series. Series then gives you a lot more leverage. The short answer is, you don't make a lot of money from the book publishing game unless you're James Patterson or something.
Tell me, how did you get involved with Welcome Home, Brother Charles? And was it called that when you were shooting it?
No, it wasn't called. It was funny. It's almost 50 years ago now, so I was trying to remember. I know it wasn't Welcome Home, Brother Charles. The director was Walt Gordon when I met him. He was not Jamaa-Fanakaa. He was Walt Gordon when I first met him. But I know it had a different title, but I don't remember what the title was.
Was it Soul Vengeance?
That sounds right. Yes, that sounds right, because it was kind of a very political time. This was like 73 or 74, and there was racial tension and a lot of stuff going on. And I remember there was a directing class at UCLA that you had to take if you were going to get your advanced degree in film. And Jamal was going to UCLA, and he had a little group of kind of very political filmmakers that he was friends with. And so the teacher who taught the class, her name was Delia Sally, and she liked me as an actor. So she had recommended me to a lot of the directors who came into the class. So I ended up doing a lot of scene work in the class, and that was how I met him. And I don't think I had to audition for him, because I don't remember auditioning. I think he just gave me the part, and it was supposed to be like, we were supposed to be like redneck white cops who were going to run around and chase was his name? I'm drawing a blank on his name. He had a strange name. Marlo. He was a young black man, African-American man, and he was kind of like the intense bad guy in it. And we were supposed to chase him around with guns and say, "Stop or I'll shoot." And that was kind of how it started. And I was so excited because I had done some short student films, but this was like a real movie. This was like there were actors in the movie who had actually been on television. They weren't students. They were like real actors. And I remember the thing that was most exciting, I hadn't done anything on film where I had gotten a costume, and they were going to give me a costume to wear. And they had a wardrobe person who took measurements, and it was like, holy mackerel, this is like the big time. They're going to give me something to wear. We were filming on campus, and there was a point where they told us to show up. And I don't know if you're familiar with UCLA, but there's a big building called Bunch Hall, which is a big brown multi-story building, very modern. And they said, okay, we're going to meet there. So we all met there, and they had a camera and a couple of lights. And Paul Pizzera was a friend of mine who wasn't an actor. He was kind of a good-looking blonde-haired guy. And I said, they need like a blonde-haired guy to be the other cop, to be in kind of contrast to me, because I had very dark hair at the time, very thick, curly, dark hair. So he said, will they pay me? And I said, I don't think they're going to pay you, but they'll give you like lunch, and you'll get to be in a movie. And he was like, yeah, okay. So he showed up, and he brought a camera, and I was trying to find him today. He took pictures of us, and I think I've, over the course of the last 50 years, I probably have moved a dozen times. And somewhere in my house now are those pictures, but I couldn't find. There were 2 pictures of me in my policeman uniform, looking very intense, holding this gun. I had those pictures for years, and I actually think I actually used them as acting shots for a time. So we show up, and Jamaa says, okay, here's what, we're going to shoot you guys up on the balcony up there looking down, and then you're going to run down the stairs, and you're going to start yelling, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so they say, go in the bathroom and change into the cop uniforms. So Paul and I go into the bathroom, and we're changing into our cop uniforms. They have the gun belts and the guns and the whole thing. So we change into our uniforms. We come out. We look really cool. He takes pictures of us. We go up on the balcony. They shoot us up on the balcony. We come running down, and the campus police are there. And the campus police say, somebody just saw you in the bathroom changing into a policeman uniform. What are you doing? And we're like, we're making a movie. There's the camera, there's the lights. And, I can't speak for any other campus policeman, but at the time, the campus police at UCLA were very intense because a lot of them had wanted to be LAPD, hadn't made the cut. And so they were not the easiest guys to get along with. And they started to give Jamaa a lot of attitude about, because I think he was a black man, and it was like, okay, before long it had escalated to, can't you believe that I'm a director because I'm black? It's like, uh-oh, we're going in a direction that we may not want to go here. And he's trying to explain to them that he's shooting a film and he's a student at UCLA. And they say, well, where's your permit? Turns out he didn't have a permit and he hadn't talked to anybody in the film department. So then they say, okay, you're under arrest. And we say, he's like, what do you mean? I'm a filmmaker. And they said, you're under arrest. And so they take Paul, me, and Jamaa, and they take us. They didn't put us in handcuffs. The police station is not actually on campus. It's a little ways down Westwood Boulevard, about a half mile away from the campus. So they walk us down off the campus, put us in the car, and drive us to the police station. I don't know if the police station actually has cells, but they didn't put us in a cell. They held us there and said, you have to get out of the police uniforms, put on your own clothes. We put on our own clothes, and they book us for carrying a gun on a college campus and impersonating a police officer, both of which are felony offenses. And we're like, holy, well, you can't do this. And then they say, we're going to hold you until somebody can come and get you, because we're not going to let you leave the station. So I have to call my father and call my dad and tell him I've been arrested, and can you please come and get me? So he goes, well, what did you do? And I said, working in a movie, and they arrested me. Just come and get me. So he comes and gets me, and when he shows up at the police station, they tell him, your son has been arrested for impersonating an officer and carrying a gun on campus. And he goes crazy and starts screaming at him, what are you, nuts? You're arresting my son for this? He's an actor. He's trying to make a movie. So they let us go. And then my dad, bless his heart, he's gone now, but bless his heart, he stayed on it for probably 6 months, because he said, you cannot have on your record that you were arrested on campus for carrying a gun and impersonating a police officer. And so finally, he got the chief of police of the campus police to write a letter saying that it was all a misunderstanding and that it was, wiped from my record. And they gave him a letter on the stationery of the university police explaining that if anybody heard about this or mentioned anything about it, that it was all a mistake. And so I think I actually worked on the movie for about 45 minutes before I was arrested. But that was literally I consider it a professional acting job. I didn't get paid anything for it, but it was a real movie that got released in theaters. I don't think I've ever seen the movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't think because I did see clips of it when he was editing stuff, but I don't think I ever saw the actual movie.
You didn't get invited to the premiere?
No, I don't think so. No. Although it was interesting, I did run into him later. I was doing a play at the Inner City Cultural Center. We were doing The Great White Hope, and Ernie Hudson played Jack Johnson, and apparently he knew Ernie Hudson. And so he came to one of the performances, and we chatted afterwards, and and had a lovely conversation. And unfortunately, he died very young. He made a number of films and was actually doing well as a filmmaker in that genre. And then he died very young. For the genre he was working in the fact that he didn't have a lot of money to work with, I think he was a talented director who probably, as time changed and Black people were allowed to kind of move up in the industry as a director, I think he would have done well. I think his career would have gone well.
You have been in so many things over the years. What are some of your favorite things that you've been in?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because there's a lot of different, the feature film, The Falcon and the Snowman, is probably my favorite. It was such a pleasure to work with Sean Penn and an incredible cast, a great script. John Schlesinger, that was the reason it sticks out in my head is because like I said, I had done a lot of bad, I shouldn't say bad, but I had done a lot of episodic television. And that was the first time I ever had a meeting with a director where they called me and I came in and I met with him. And, he's an Academy Award winning director, and I'm sitting across the desk from him and he's chatting with me. No, here's the sides. Can you audition? Can you read? Just asking me questions about my life and my family and kind of getting to know me. And I'm so nervous that I'm like, I can't think of anything interesting to say or clever to say. And I know it's going really badly. And so I finally say, Mr. Schlesinger, I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm so nervous because I want to be in this movie so badly that I know I'm blowing it. Could we start all over again? You don't have to spend a lot of time with me, but could we just start over again? And I'll try to be more interesting. And he started to laugh and he said, well, and he's English. And you know what I do when I'm in a meeting and I'm going to be nervous? I wear a lapel pin. And then when I sit down, it never fails. The person says, oh, what is that lapel pin about? And then we have a conversation and it's going, but then it breaks the ice and we have something to talk about. So now, obviously, every meeting I have gone to for the last 40 years, I have a drawer full of lapel pins and I wear a lapel pin and it never fails. Because the person you're talking to is usually as nervous or more nervous than you are. And they always say, oh, that's an interesting lapel pin. What does that mean? Oh, I was in Italy and I thought it was really cool and it represents the families of the that founded the town, and suddenly you're not saying, well, I started as an actor and blah, blah, blah. And this is my credits and I'd like to talk, it's like, it relaxes everybody in the room and suddenly it's a whole different meeting. And then when I luckily got the job, and no one was more shocked than me than when I got the job, but I got the job. And the thing that was remarkable is I got to work on the film for like 3 weeks. And he's the only director to this day that I've ever worked with. He never even looked through the lens. They didn't have video monitors then. You actually had to look through the eyepiece to see how the shot was set up. And he would sit in a chair like he was watching a play and never look through the lens of the camera, the eyepiece of camera. And then after very nice, lovely. And he would come up to me and he would whisper something to me and say, let's do it again. And we would do it again. And that would be a different scene because the other actor I was playing with, he didn't hear the direction, so he couldn't anticipate what I was going to do. And then, oh, lovely, very nice. Let's try it one more time. And now he'd go to the other actor and whisper something to them. And I didn't know, so I had to really pay attention and listen. And it was just a really, really nice. And then he was so sweet. He wrote me a letter on his own personal stationery to say what a nice job I had done in the movie. And I still have that framed in my office. It was just a really remarkable job. And then flash forward to a year and a half ago working on Barry. When I went to audition for that, they said, okay, they gave me the scenes to read. And they said, when you finish the scene, improvise, keep going, don't stop. So I have a lot of stage background, and I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, this is very rare in television because usually, particularly when the producer is also the writer, they don't like actors to make the scene funnier. It's basically, don't improvise or you're asking for trouble. And they said, oh, no, improvise. We want you to do that. So we did it like 2 or 3 times, and I improvised every time. I get the job. I show up the first day. And we do the first take. Okay, great. Then Alec Berg, who's one of the creators of the show and also one of the writers of the show, walks over and to the other actor and whispers something in his ear. Okay, 40 years later or whatever, I'm doing the same gig. And sure enough, Anthony, who plays No Hank, said different lines. So now I had to like come up with something to kind of work with him, because, okay, still within the context of the scene, still about the same stuff, but now you're okay, I got to come up with something new and different. And we did it about 10 times, and it was, then we took a break, and it was very nice. As I was walking out of the soundstage to get a cup of coffee, Alec came up to me and said, nice job. Good job. And that's kind of like the ultimate gig for an actor, is if getting paid is important, but it's really nice when somebody that you respect says, good job. That was, a lot of actors would have got thrown by that. Those two, there's been a lot of jobs, and there's been nice moments. Getting to go to a great location, getting to go to Mexico City was very interesting and very cool. Getting to go to Canada was very nice and very cool. Absolutely wonderful. Meeting Al Lewis, who was Grandpa on the Munsters, and getting to work with him. All these great character actors that I've met over the years. I was working on a film, and there's an extra kind of sitting there, and he's probably in his 70s and maybe 80s, sitting there very politely. And I sat down and we started to chat, and this was in Arizona, and he was like, and I said, do you live around here? And he said, oh yeah, I moved. I used to live in Hollywood for years, but I moved to Arizona to retire. And I said, oh, were you an actor? Yeah, I was an actor. Of course, of the conversation, we find out that he was the straight man in all of W.C. Fields' movies. He's in the famous dentist scene. And he's like, well, yeah, I was in the dentist. And I'm like, you were in the dentist scene? You're the one that Fields kind of pulls all around the chair as he's yanking your teeth out. And he's like, yeah, I knew W.C. He called him Bill. I knew Bill from vaudeville, and we just kind of started working together. And those moments like that, where you just kind of go, what a cool, I couldn't have done this if I was an accountant. Right. There's moments like that, over the course of the years where you just kind of go, I'm a lucky guy. That was really fun. And the fact that I still get excited. I had a job not too long ago, and, I don't need an alarm clock to get up in the morning. I wake up and I'm excited to get there. And it's very funny when you get to a certain age where they don't give me a lot of makeup anymore, which is really interesting, because they kind of say, well, I don't think you need much. And basically they're pretty much kind of politely saying it doesn't make any difference. There's not much I can do with you there, my friend.
We do a podcast also about Barney Miller, and I know you were on a couple episodes of that. What was your experience like on that one?
Again, that was one of very early on in my acting career, and I was very excited to be on it because it was a kind of a hot show at the time. And they shot it in front of a live audience, which was very interesting. And I had done a lot of stage, but it was still a little intimidating. The second episode was easier. The first episode, it was a little intimidating because you're not the star of the show, so they kind of put you in a green room and kind of keep you there. And then they say, okay, we're ready for it's like doing a soap opera. They kind of park you someplace so they know that you're not going to run away or get lost or do something silly. So you just stay there. And then they basically say, okay, we're ready for your scene. And they put you backstage, and you got to enter through this door, and somebody gives you the cue, and you're off to the races. And, there's 1,000 people sitting in the audience. And it's interesting because the energy for a sitcom is even higher than it is for doing stage work. There's stage, sitcom, and then, I don't know, Nickelodeon or something. I can't say it was intimidating because everybody on the show could not have been nicer. They're just really, really nice. Almost all of them are from New York and had a stage background. So they were the actors and the crew, very, very nice. Danny Arnold was an interesting character, kind of a throwback to the old days of Neil Simon and stuff. He actually, I think, wrote with Neil Simon for a while. And, he was like a real wordsmith who, set up, joke, set up, joke, set up, joke. He was a real master. So that was that I'd forgotten about that. I mean, it's funny. I've done so many television shows that I get residual checks and I forgot Beauty and the Beast. When did I do Beauty and the Beast? I don't know. I don't even remember that one, but okay.
I see your Star Trek figures back there. Are you a big Star Trek fan?
I don't want to offend people, but no, I'm not. But it was very funny. I was working on a movie, and the director is a huge Star Trek fan, and I had given him so much abuse for being a Star Trek fan, and his wife was like, "Yeah, you tell him he's like a grown man. He's got all these Star Trek figures. How ridiculous is that?" So when I was finished, when I was going to the airport to come home, he said, "And this is for you, a Star Trek figure. So now I can give you a lot of heat for having Star Trek figures." I have, as you can obviously see, I have a ton of toys and collectibles and all that stuff. I just never became I like Star Trek, the television show and the movies. For whatever reason, collecting that stuff never really appealed to me. Collecting Pez dispensers, to me, makes much more sense than collecting Star Trek figures.
Well, I see you've even got Al Lewis behind you, the bobblehead.
And that he was a trip. He was a trip to work with. Very, very funny. My stomach hurt at the end of the day. My stomach would hurt. Working with him and Jack Warden.
That's right. You worked on used cars.
Yeah. And that was one of my first acting jobs. I think I have 3 lines, 1 scene, but there was Al Lewis and Jack Warden at the hotel. They picked me up at the hotel. Al Lewis and Jack Warden are in the backseat of the car and I'm in the front seat. So I say to myself, all right, I got to say something to them. So I turned to Al Lewis and I go, I love you on the Munsters and blah, blah, blah. It's just going to be a real treat. And I turned to Jack Warden and I say, and, I have to say, it's just an honor to work with you. You've been in so many great films. I'm just thrilled to work with you. He looks at me and goes, who the fuck cares? And I'm like, and I turn around and I'm sitting in the car now, and the driver doesn't say anything. And I'm sitting there totally humiliated, and I just don't know what to do now. Then I feel this hand on my shoulder going, I'm kidding. And for the rest of the time that I was in Arizona with them, I was the butt of all of their jokes. These are moments that you kind of go, how lucky am I? Jack Warden goes, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm in Phoenix by myself at a hotel. What am I going to be doing? He's like, you want to come to dinner with me and Al? And I'm like, yes, yes. And so I go to dinner with Al Lewis and Jack Warden, and we're hanging out eating dinner, and they're telling, they knew each other for years in New York, and they were both lifeguards at the YMCA, and Al Lewis was a circus clown for a while, and amazing stories, could not have been nicer, and then paid for my dinner. And then the next day I show up and because people have seen the next morning, I'm like, they're my 2 best buddies now. We're hanging around, we're drinking coffee, we're joking around, and somebody comes up to me. It still makes me laugh. Somebody comes up and asks for Al Lewis and Jack's autograph, and I'm standing there. And they say, could we have your autograph too? And I say, I don't know if you really want my autograph yet. And I'm starting to explain that I'm not a very successful actor and you won't know who I am. And Jack goes, just sign a goddamn autograph. So it was just, again, those are moments where, I didn't get paid a real lot of money and I don't do a whole lot in the movie, but those are moments that, are treasured because, how cool was that to get to, and again, I work with all these young actors and they go, well, what's the secret? You've been working forever, huh? And I say the secret is show up on time and be nice. Show up on time and be nice. Don't be a jerk. I work with so many actors who are just jerks who basically show up unprepared, expect people to, cater to them. And it's like, come on. You're not breaking rocks in the hot sun. You're you're an actor, it's like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. Yeah, you worked a 12-hour day, but you only actually worked 45 minutes. It's like, come on, be realistic, be polite. When they ask you to do something, don't give them attitude. And the other tip is move to Georgia. Move to Georgia because it's much cheaper than Los Angeles, and there's a lot more work there.
So you've got the third book coming out. What else are you working on?
Oh, a bunch of stuff. I have, I think, 3 screenplays that my agent has got out and about. I have a television pilot that I wrote with 2 other writers. I'm always working on something. That was also something I learned very early on. You can't just have one project. You have to have multiple projects. You have to always be hustling. I've done okay. I've made a nice living as a writer and an actor, but it's a constant hustle. And if you're not hustling, you're dead. I mean, literally. I've gone to parties and run into people. And they're trying to be polite, but they're like, "Are you retired?" It's like, no, I don't think so. Because I took some time off, I was relaxing, I have a family, I had a life, I went on vacation, and, you go away for a little while and there's a lot of other office here, and I pretend that I have a job. I'm in my office by 8:30. I take a lunch break at 12 o'clock for a half hour, and then I work from, like 1 o'clock till probably 3 or 4. So it's like, and I do that 5 days a week. And so if nothing else, I am prolific.
Mr. Ingraffia, thank you so much for your time. This was great talking with you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Hey, baby, I ain't asking what you... No, baby. I ain't asking what you... Just a bigger hungry love. I will do. Don't be a stingy little mama. You about to start me half to death. Now you can spare a kiss or two and still have many levels on the bay. No. I ain't asking.
All right, we are back and we're talking about Welcome Home, Brother Charles. Now, you guys mentioned that you had seen the penitentiary films. I've not seen either of those. How are they? Should I be checking those out immediately?
I would think so. I would say so. Sure, absolutely.
I've been thinking about revisiting them. I meant to before this, but I just hadn't had the time. I only saw the first 2. I know there's 3. The second one in particular is wild. It was kind of what got me turned on to it in the first place. Just finding out like, oh, there's a violent ass movie with Mr. T in it. And it's a very early Ernie Hudson role too. I think he's the bad guy in it. It's wild. The first one is pretty good. The second one is crazy, and I haven't heard a lot about the third. So, but yeah,
I think you're right. I think I fell off too. I don't think I ever saw I think the third got really mixed reviews, and I think yeah.
But yeah, no, I honestly think those movies might be right up your alley, Mike.
That's right. No, but I agree. Definitely the first 2. Kind of like Godfather 3, how it kind of hangs out there by itself. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. But definitely the first.
Because I think it came out a bit later.
That's right. There's some year gap between 2 and 3.
And then he had one more called Street Wars at the end, which I haven't heard anything about that one.
Yeah, I think I tried to see it somewhere or tried to hunt it down at one point and wasn't able to.
And then the Vinegar Syndrome, when they put this one out, when they put out Welcome Home, Brother Charles, they also included Emma May on there as well.
Yeah, by the way, that's been shown on TCM. In fact, that's where I saw it.
That's got a different name as well. That's like Soul Sisters Revenge or something like that. I can't remember what it is. Yeah, because this one, when I watched, before I got the Vinegar Syndrome disc, I watched the Xenon version, which has that horrible Chiron title of Soul Vengeance at the beginning.
Yeah, I was lucky to find that I mean, like, God bless Vinegar Syndrome. The things that they will dig up and make look better than anything you've ever seen, when we're still in a world where you can't even get a proper HD copy of like True Lies or The Abyss.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry, it was Black Sisters Revenge. What it was called.
Sure. That's interesting. Yeah. I think on TCM they used the original title. I seem to recall. Yeah.
And I also noticed, the one short film the alternate title that he made was Death on the Installment Plan, and that, like, one of the best lines I think in this movie is with the line about him, doing time on the white man's installment plan.
Yeah, there's some really clever lines in here. I mean, I don't know. It feels like I'm not supposed to like this movie. It feels like, oh, it's too rough, and just, like the whole thing we're talking about with like the confusion around what happens first and does he actually get castrated. Yeah, there's some problems here, but I've seen a lot worse, man. I've seen a whole lot worse, and I just think that the themes of this, and I always enjoy this whole thing of like the guy who gets out of jail and goes after all the people that put him away. I mean, we've seen that trope in so many movies.
And never like this.
Never like this,
Oh, that's right. That's right, man. That's right. But can you see, no, really, can you see, like, try to pitch this to a room of women executives? So, look, there's a guy, see? And they try to castrate him, only it doesn't work. And this through radiation, some other mystical means, he gets this massive cock. Oh, baby. Oh, yeah. Well, get out now.
You got to have the balls of like sorry to bother you, and that takes a lot of build up to. you've got to set that tone early and just get weirder from there. This movie does not have any interest in setting that tone.
It just comes as such a surprise when it starts happening.
Yeah, because like I said, so much of it is, slice of life stuff, just like legitimate drama, like the stuff with like him and the girlfriend, like the one scene where they're, they have like a tender lovemaking sequence and everything.
Yeah, the whole red suit thing.
Yeah, and it feels so real and human. And it also kind of, when she put on the record, though, I couldn't help but think of the Kentucky Fried Movie, that joyous sex sequence. But yeah, it feels, like the fact that the movie takes time to show you like the human side, the fact that like that it's not just an element of destruction in his pants. Like,
yeah, it could be used for good and for
evil.
Exactly.
That's it. There you go. That's it. Well, that's it. That's the duality that you can bring out in the remake.
What we also end the movie on, which I'll just refer to as the love theme from Welcome Home, Brother Charles. Yes. I feel like that's a lost start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for it because there's like two songs, I think, that play throughout the film. And I was looking for those someplace, but could not find anything, not even on like Discogs or anything. Trying to remember, because there's the theme that I was talking about with like, it almost sounds like horns or like, almost like fog horns in it, and then it sounds like, I don't know, hyenas laughing or something. Right? It's just really kind of strange. But then, yeah, there's two songs by Andre Douglas and the Gliders, and I think it's Imagine is the love theme, and then there's another one called Junkies Pimps, and I was looking for those on a 45 or something, and no luck.
Oh man, that's too bad. That's great.
I could find music from Top of the Heap.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, this being a student film, like, the distribution couldn't, and then just getting the rights to stuff, like,
exactly.
Who knows?
Well, exactly. That's right.
And I was thinking, like, how many like full on student films by notable filmmakers are like actually out there and successful on their own? Because I could think of like this. There's Cannibal the Musical, and I can't think of much else.
THX, wasn't that Lucas's student film?
There was a version that was that was a student film that he played, but then this was actually the theatrical version was actually Warner Brothers put that out, and that was all because of Francis Ford Coppola.
Almost forgot Dark Star. There's Dark Star.
Dark Star, that's right. Dark Star.
Oh yeah,
right.
yeah. Because I was thinking, my mind immediately went to El Mariachi, but Rodriguez wasn't in school.
Yeah,
he just did it on his own.
He was just putting himself through medical tests for fun to make a movie.
Exactly. That's right. That's crazy. I know. That's so funny to think about that. And then he remade it, right, with Banderas? Is that correct?
It's supposed to be a sequel. It's because it flashes back to the end of the first movie, but yeah, it kind of just feels like it's almost telling the same story.
It's like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2.
Yeah. That's it. There you go. All right.
It took me a little bit to get that when I was watching it the first time, Desperado, and I was like, oh, wait, no, he's a big Raimi fan. This is like Evil Dead 2, like, why would he go back to the cabin?
Yeah, that's that one scene where he has the flashback to getting shot in the hand, and I'm like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, and that original dude actually shows up there at the end with like the 3 mariachis.
Yes, I recall that. That's right.
Yeah. And I wish they would have like gotten branched off and done like, oh, and here's the 3rd mariachi story instead of Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which I was not a fan of.
Which it's a very strange film. That is talking about strange films. Yeah.
I liked it at the time, but it's been a long time.
I think just the Tarantino cameo just kind of soured it for me.
Yeah, you got a little more history there than we do.
That's it. There you go. I don't know, man. I got to be careful with my words. Every word I say is kind of innuendo, and I don't mean it to be. But really, I think it's just planted in me, man. That it's like I don't know, man. Just idea like you could do it as a graphic novel, or maybe as a a kind of like a crazy, like in the days of Holloway House. You could do a kind of Holloway House, kind of this lurid, paperback original. And really kind of, crank it up as we've talked about, in terms of just the, the strangeness of it and all that. And maybe that's the way to do it is if you put it just on paper, maybe you're safer than the imagery. I'm not sure.
Convincing a whole crew to go on that journey with you and get the money, that's the hard part.
That's the hard part. That's right. That's the hard part. That's right.
But if you're putting it all on paper yourself, you can do whatever you want.
That's it. There you go. That's right. If you don't want to read it, go ahead. You want to burn it? Go on, burn it. I'll make them, You got to still buy it to burn it, so that's all right with me. That's it.
And that way you don't have to worry about special effects and how they look either. So you can really go places with that. In a few minutes, I'm going to ask you what you're working on, but I think I just found your new project for you. So
that's it.
I just got to ask, like, what the hell did Chinese food ever do to that man?
Exactly. Yeah, what was that about? You're right. That was like that whole wedding thing. You're right. That's right, Jay. I forgot about that.
That was strange. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, what the heck? Really? Go on, man. That's it.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and take another break and play a preview for next week's show.
Qu'est-ce que ça fait?
Un peu la fête, quoi.
Moi, on me pose jamais de questions parce que soit je mens, soit je ne réponds pas.
Ouais, ça marche. Enfin, tu me dis rien, dis-moi des choses, merde. Moi, je voudrais savoir, je voudrais comprendre ce qui m'arrive.
Est-ce que tu vas foutre le camp, imbécile, idiot?
Tu t'arrêtes, hein?
Nettoyer.
Non, ça fait rien, c'est pas grave. Bon, on referme tous les rideaux, puis on se rend là. Yes.
That's right. We are starting off French month next month with a look at Barbet Schroeder's Matrice. Until then, I want to thank this week's co-hosts, Gary and Jackie. So, Jackie, what has been keeping you busy lately?
Just life. It's been a while since I've made a proper foray into the internet as any kind of personality. Although I'm hoping to do a bit more of it soon. I've been working as the events manager here at the Alamo Draft House in the Houston area. So that keeps me busy because I work we are actually right now live from a projection booth because it was the quietest place I could think of. Busy round the clock, just getting good movies out there and making sure people have fun. But hopefully, good friend Chris Stashu is trying to get me back on his show. I hope to be on there very soon again. I'm actually working on, of all things, an album of sort of. I'm joining on a project. It's not my project because I know a bunch of guys involved in like the old retro game scene. There's an old PC game called The Seventh Guest, and they're doing an album, sort of a reimagining the music from that and it's an incredible soundtrack. So their band is called Error 47, and I'm going to be contributing vocals to the songs on that. So I'm really excited about that because that's just it. Like the music to that game was the first time I heard anything on that medium that sounded like real music. And it's an incredible, like, it's exciting to be part of that kind of project. And I'm kind of hoping to get more stuff like that out there too. I just want to get more active with the arts wherever I can. Because yeah, it's, you know, I miss it. It's so much fun to create.
And Gary, how about yourself?
Oh, I've you know, I had a novel out last year, One Shot Harry, and so I've now been kind of going through, which is I've had some very good comments from my editor, so we kind of been, you know, doing the tweaks and rewrites and revisions on that. So I've been pretty happy with how that's gone. And then working on a couple of comic book projects, including something for, well, I guess while the doors stay open, Comixology Originals, which now is kind of has all across the table at Amazon. But in particular, our project, I guess, is, well, we still have money there. And it's taking a character of mine, this outlaw character, Martha Cheney, that I've written a couple of books about, novels about in the past, and now kind of transforming her into the realm of comics. So I've been kind of, we got this great artist, Adriana Mello, who's Brazilian, and she's just fantastic. And so I've been having a great time, you know, working on that.
Well, thank you so much, folks, for being on the show. Thanks to everybody for listening. If you want to hear more of me shooting off my mouth, check out some of the other shows I work on. They are all available at weirdingwaymedia.com. Thanks especially to our Patreon community. If you want to join the community, visit patreon.com/projection booth. Every donation we get helps the projection booth take over the world.
And it does a nasty dance. When it moves in and out, everybody starts to shout, Monster! Oh! Monster! Oh! Get out of here, monster! 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 Get out of here, monster! Does a naughty dance. When it sees the light of day, you can hear the people say, oh no, a monster! Oh no, a monster! Oh no, oh no, a giant monster! 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 Oh no, a giant monster! Shut the window, bolt the door, don't want to see that monster no more. Side of France, but they do wear fleece to protect them from the bees. Monster! Monster! Oh, gee, a great big monster! a monster on the run, and it wants to have some fun. When it flies up in the air, all the people stop and stare. The guys give a yell, and the girls start to shriek when they see its giant claws and its razor-sharp beak.
Gosh, would you look at that thing? And I thought dinosaurs were extinct.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.